Hi, everyone. My name is Hannah Marco, and I am the Education Program Administrator with Nashville Opera. I would like to welcome you all to our second Helen Brown Memorial Masterclass featuring our Mary Raglan emerging artists. I would especially like to thank the Nashville Opera Guild for their generous support of the Helen Brown Memorial Masterclass series. Many of you have tuned into our masterclass last week, but in case you missed it, I would like to take a moment to introduce you all to our clinician today, Jason Ferrante. American tenor and voice teacher Jason Ferrante currently maintains a thriving career on stage and is one of the leading voice teachers in the opera industry, currently serving as voice teacher to many professional artists and the training programs at Wolf Trap Opera, Nashville Opera, Minnesota Opera, Michigan Opera Theater, and Pensacola Opera. He also leads the classical voice discipline for young arts and serves as a judge for the Metropolitan Opera National Council auditions. I would also like to introduce our two Mary Raglan emerging artists that will be working with Jason today, Rebecca Howell, who is our soprano, and Christopher Curcarudo, who is our bass baritone. Now I will hand it off to Jason and we will get started.
Thank you, Hannah. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us here on Zoom TV. And hi to wherever you are in the country if you're tuning in or watching this later on delay. We're really happy to do this positively weird thing of a class online. And it's been a great year of trying to figure out how to streamline the messaging when it comes to talking to singers, when we really don't have the luxury of space and thought and multiple meetings for many semesters. We try to make a point on here with professional singers that they can run with, and that's what we'll try to do today. It'll feel a little bit like a drive-by lesson. We'll hear our artists today perform at least one aria and probably two with a little bit of talking on the second one, and we'll try to pick out one thing, maybe two things, and I think we can be more effective by repeating an idea as opposed to throwing the hundreds of really smart, witty, quick things that are forgotten by dinner time. And we're really lucky to have some great repertoire scheduled for today, very diverse and exciting, with two wonderful singers. And I want to take this time to thank Nashville Opera for keeping the educational component of the company alive while we're waiting to get back on our feet. So thank you for that, and thank you to every company in the country that has done that. It's impressive, and those singers who are right at that point of emerging professional that need this extra guidance more than ever, and they're intersecting this time in our history. Their talents and the needs for development haven't gone anywhere, and so thank you to the companies who have kept that going. Thank you to the singers for being crazy and neurotic enough to get online and do this in front of a bunch of people who are potentially sitting on their couch, eating lunch, watching this. And thank you to all the voice teachers out there who are figuring this out, how to do this. In the end, this is about a two-person conversation between one person that has heard a lot of singers over the years and the other one that's actually doing it. I'm not that second person today. And I know when I give advice, it's so much easier for me to say things when I don't have to respond by singing. And I try to keep that in mind when I give my advice. And sometimes I'll say, well, here's my pedagogy advice and my teacher advice. And now let me put my singer hat and tell you what that really looks like. And something we'll focus on today a little bit is recognizing the difference between the look of the singing in the training situation and the look of the actual execution. But I think any Olympian will tell you that they have gym time that doesn't involve swimming. It doesn't involve parallel bars. It involves just doing things to their muscles so that hopefully when 30 million people are watching on television, those muscles might just do what you told them to in the gym. And I have found it personally therapeutic for me while we've been off stage to spend a little more time just being noisemakers with little inflection and feeling the body. And I personally cannot wait to be nervous again. and to not have the opportunity to retake a high note 18 times. And as a teacher, I said this last time and I say it again, I cannot wait to work with a singer and not see myself on screen the whole time I'm doing it. It's really been weird, and but it's really helped with my poker face too. So on that note, we're going to get going, and we're going to start with Rebecca today. And Rebecca, I think we have What Good Would the Moon Be from Street Scene?
Correct.
Great.
Yep.
Can't wait. Let's do it.
All righty. I've looked in the windows at diamonds. They're beautiful, but they're cold. I've seen Broadway stars in fur coats that cost a fortune, so I'm told. I guess I'd look nice in diamonds, and stables might add to my charms. But if someone I don't care for should buy them, I'd rather have two loving arms. What good would the moon be unless the right one shared its beams? What good would dreams come true be if love wasn't in those dreams? And the primrose path, what would be the fun of walking down a path like that without the right one? What good would the night be unless the right lips whisper low? Kiss me, oh darling, kiss me, while evening stars still glow. No, it won't be a primrose path for me. No, it won't be diamonds or gold, but maybe it will be someone who loves me. Someone who loves just me.
Insert applause noise here. Wow. Can I just say right out of the gates, you have a middle voice that is just so easy to listen to and understandable, like right away. Right away. And I think that's essential to singing this repertoire. This isn't a fireworks high note composer.
Right.
And it's that easily communicated language in the middle, but with a tone that's attractive and frankly beautiful is so important. One of the things that can happen is when high notes occur, they can feel higher than you expect. So you did this last G beautifully, and there are some times where that can feel like one of the higher G's in all of the repertoire. And I think it's because we take the balances off a little bit, and we lean a little bit more into the middle to make the style sound right. So
Sure.
we'll talk about in a minute how can you shift into a more complete resonance on that high G. Mm-hmm. And would you call this, someone who sings good crossover could easily sing this, right? how would you define crossover singing?
That's an interesting question. Crossover singing, in a way, personally, I think all singing should be very tied to the text, but good crossover singing, I think the text and delivery is definitely at the forefront.
Yeah. And thank you for saying that. I also think if good crossover singing or good singing in general is tied to the text should also be tied to our actual muscular parts, right? So that it's more than that we're not just saying a letter T or saying a W, but I can tell you where it's being executed and where I can feel it. So I want to talk a little bit about making that language a little bit more visceral. And I understand you have advanced to the semifinal round of the Lotte Lehmann court vowel competition, right?
Yes, I have. So very excited about that. We're recording this again, so.
So you'll be doing this. You'll be doing this for that competition, yeah?
Yes, correct.
Great, congratulations, great.
Thank you.
And you studied. I'm testing my memory here. You worked with Carol Van Ness, right?
Yeah, awesome. Grad school at.
Yeah, so I've made no secret about it. One of my all-time favorite singers, who managed to sing the most luscious tonality you can imagine, yet somehow never scooped. Always had the text was always on the beat. And I love that it's not that, oh, she's a great singing actress with good language skills, or oh, she's a park and bark luscious voice singer. I think really talented people have to be both, you know, and that's what I hope for everybody. So let's start this thing again, and we don't have to start it with the track. Let's just do some of the lines and phrases on their own.
Okay.
So do you think on the Ives that to bring that text out, do you think it's an unstressed word in many ways, at least rhythmically in this phrase, but do you think there's a way is there a way to give it a little bit more complete resonance? And I almost wonder, even though it's a short word when we're speaking, that when we're singing short one-syllable words, if maybe we can take the actual muscles of the resonators, the soft palate in its width, not in its lift, but in its width, and sort of the sternum in its stretch simultaneously with the soft palate. We all these voice teachers, we talk about all of these intricate things and read our books. I like to start with what you hope the final look is and then work backwards to fill it in. The final look to me is an active soft palate with a low larynx. That's really basic. There's like 7 weeks of discussion about how you get there, right? But let's get these onsets. Let's do the first two phrases of I've looked in the windows of diamonds, they're beautiful, but they're cold. I've seen Broadway stars in fur coats that cost a fortune, so I'm told. Let's give a lot more space to every little word. So I'm talking about I've, in, at, but, even fur. And be unmusical for a minute and overdo it.
Okay.
Good, but don't be late. Okay.
I've looked in the windows at diamonds. They're beautiful, but they're cold. I've seen Broadway stars in fur coats that cost a fortune, so I'm told.
Wonderful, fantastic. What ends up happening is we just hear a little bit more legato, because if the analogy is that the small one-syllable unstressed words are the mortar in between the bricks, and the bricks are the stressed important words, then we have a more complete wall of noise if the mortar's filled in. And or you can use an Oreo cookie if you want as the analogy, whatever you'd like. So a little exercise, if you don't mind doing a little exercise for me. I like to do with singing in English, where there are so many unstressed pieces of text when we're speaking that all of a sudden become lyrical. I like to ask singers to go through and sing those phrases with a fermata on one of those little words, and to really check, are all of the lights on in every room of this physical house? Meaning, does my chest have posture? Is my pharynx open? Is my larynx flexible? Do I have some width on my soft palate? We talk about lifting your soft palate. If you looked at pamphlets of voice teachers at a college, you almost always get a still photo of someone going like this.
Yeah.
But I think the journey to a state of lift means the muscles have to have a little bit of width. Think about the skin on a timpani, if you will, just to complete that tension that allows noise to happen when you strike it. So I want you to sing, I've looked in the wind. I want you to sing, I've looked in the windows at diamonds, and I want you to put a fermata on at before diamonds. And while you're holding it,
Okay.
while you're holding it, I want you to check the soft palate stretch. I want you to check your laryngeal position. I want you to check, is my tongue not unnecessarily pressing against my front teeth? I think it's a myth that should happen. Had a great chat about that with Frederick. And am I resonating on my chest? Chest as part of anatomy, not as a registration, just the anatomy, literally where I'm touching. That posturing has to be there even on your very highest head notes. You know what I mean? You know, it may not be, you may not sing a note that's dominant in the chest, but the anatomy should always be there. Okay, so we're going to sing, I've looked in the windows at. Hold it until you check every room in this physical house, and then sing diamonds. Let's do that.
Okay. I've looked in the windows
Fantastic, because it's in those little moments that we don't think are important because they're unstressed that we often snip the cord to our physicality, and then when I resume an accented note right after, I'm not as complete. And what people at tables in audition studios with clipboards hear is lack of legato. They might not tell you why all the time, but that's what's heard. And in the end, while it's interesting discussion to talk about who knows what about how the voice works, etc., the impression is the impression, right? And this will just give you a little bit more of a complete sound throughout what you're doing. Great. So as an exercise that you can run from our drive-by class with is I would sing every one of these phrases and sing it over and over with a fermata on a different unimportant pitch each time.
Okay.
And then you go back and you can sing the phrase, and you've given every pitch in the phrase its moment in the sun. And people who are gym nuts, they go to the gym, they get on a leg machine, they get on an arm machine, they get on a back machine, right? And when they're on the arm machine, their legs may be neglected for 15 minutes. But they get on all the machines and then they walk down the street a more fit body.
Sure.
So we have to really fill in the gaps there when we're doing this. When you're holding, P.S. you should tell your pianist to really follow you more. I'm just kidding, by the way. Singing with a track is the most crazy thing ever. It's a quick thing for us in the classical world to complain about it. Yes, complain about it. Of course, it's a buzzkill. However, take 2 seconds and respect how many people in different genres do this all of the time. And it is its own language. Of course, our repertoire is different, and you can sit over coffee and discuss which one is better and play the elite game and all of that. But in the end, there is a very fluent language that we have to develop in singing with a track. It's very, very it's very weird, and I think a lot of it is because our hyperextended breathing technique relies on a flexible pulse. And it can be really tricky, but I think it's also very useful if we had to look for a silver lining in it. As I've noticed, singers I'm working with know their damn scores just a little bit better, because if the better you know the score and how intricate it can be, the better you are in following a track. So there's a silver lining. There's a silver lining in everything, I guess, but I hope we don't have to do that for too long. All right. So do you mind singing, I'd rather have two loving arms? Can you hold the NG a little bit at the end of loving? Because I'm not a big fan. I'm not one of those people that says, oh, NG is a great exercise. It's not a harmful exercise, but I want you to do it because I'm interested in how you get out of it and that you arrive into the vowel space of arms immediately, that you don't take a detour to get there. So you're going to want the end.
I think I was choosing a glottal there. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah.
In either case, I'm interested in where does the tongue return after the NG of loving, and can it return immediately to the vowel you want for arms? And the story in my saying that is not that this vowel's right or this one's wrong. You're an adult. The vowel that's right is the one that you've mastered, right? But the moral of the story is that you don't spend even a half a beat in some vague vowel as you're on your way back.
Yes.
So we have to learn to get immediately to where we're going. And that comes from repetition. But let's do, I'd rather have two loving arms. That means while you're on the NG, have the chest and throat posturing preparing itself for arms right away.
Okay.
Cool.
Jason, this is your 2-minute warning.
Thank you.
I'd rather have two loving arms.
Very nice, because you know what? Having to say an NG, and this is another one that's an over coffee argument, but a lot of people may say, oh, well, NG is not Italian. I'd ask them what the word for blood is. That said, by throwing a fermata on tricky turns and moments physically in a phrase, that's when you can really put a spotlight on what you're doing and zoom in on Google Earth and see, what am I doing? And now I'm going to do it 10 times until I memorize what I'm doing. And the whole point of doing that in the vocal gym is so that you don't have to do it in front of people. And I think it's false to say this is a technical singer and this is a theatrical singer. And I think that the true technically sound singers are the ones that a director can say anything to and it won't screw their voice up.
Right.
That's, and sometimes standing still and not moving for a 4-minute aria is hard. I think anybody can roll across the stage and do cartwheels. But I think that stillness where the movement's internal, that's tricky, and it's probably a good thing to practice. Before we go on to the second piece, just for time's sake, can we do the end?
Yes, please.
Imagine if you said no.
No, never.
I've been waiting for a decade for somebody to just do that. I would laugh and say, okay. I mean, guys, don't forget, we live in this structure of apprentice master as singers, but we are two adults who are both really talented, and we just have different jobs in the room today. And in the end, I always want a singer to be making the executive decisions where they're singing. And part of my skill is to encourage a rethought if I think it's necessary. But if you are stuck to something, to run with it with you and figure that out with you. That's what we're doing. And you are an adult. There is no situation, folks, that you are stuck in. Okay. Can we do just someone who loved just me? Just that phrase. Or those pitches.
Okay.
Great. It's such the right sound for this, by the way. Like, I'm so glad you're singing this. I've done the show a couple times, and it's really one of the best things out there. It's so good. Do you think we could have a shadow vowel after just? And so there's someone who loved just me. But let's take the conversation a little further than it just being an English diction discussion. Let's talk about it as singers for a minute. Can that shadow vowel, in its split second, have all of the physical properties from top to bottom in your musculature of the me that you're about to sing?
Okay.
So let's put a fermata on the shadow vowel.
Okay.
With someone who loved just to get the body cooking.
Okay.
Obviously, you won't do that in context.
Okay.
Guys,
you want a voice shadow vowel after a T?
Oh yeah, I want you to really sing a shadow vowel forte and with a fermata on it for me. Guys, have nuance. Know the difference between when you're on stage and in the gym. Good. We said this last week that Michael Phelps lifts weights, but he never takes them into the pool with him.
That's my favorite thing that you said in the last masterclass. It was amazing. It's so good.
It's kind of a reminder to all of us that it's really just that common sense doesn't have to go out the window just because we live in poetry land all the time. Okay.
Of course.
Yeah, fermata on the shadow vowel. It's ridiculous. It should sound ridiculous.
You got it.
Yeah. Thank you. So I'm supposed to ask you to do something, and then as a good teacher, I'm supposed to say, "Oh yes, that was it," and then look at the audience for approval, right? But in this case, I actually heard a better chest posturing and support under the G.
I would agree. It felt a little more connected. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And my teacher, Beverly Johnson, would get so mad at me for saying the word support unnecessarily right now, but I said it. Okay.
Connection. I get it. I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. As long as the word that you choose, I mean, for me, it's gone through variations over the years. It's gone from support to resistance to the one I'm like riffing on right now is antagonism. I think as you get older, all of those words that you come up with in your vocal technique have had the chance to live a little bit. It's like, on your first year of ever traveling, it's all very new. And after 30 years in traveling, you have a more complete picture of the world, right? And that's something that young singers can really look forward to. But it requires that you do the traveling right now and start completing your picture. And that means talking to different teachers and different coaches. And if you're a tenor, you're not going to learn any more about vocal technique than from your fellow tenor. When I think about the most interesting conversations I've had about how to sing, I think of a couple really well-known colleagues of mine who happen to be tenors because we think about it all the time. And have these conversations and let us all dissolve the old way of where students are sort of collectibles of teachers. You're not a Hummel figurine on my shelf. You're another adult that thinks that I have a couple words I can contribute to your process, which is way bigger than just you and one other coach or teacher. Complete your picture. You'll know a whole lot more. You'll know more of what to do. You'll know a lot more about what not to do. Be open, be smart, be complete. Great. Awesome. From this thing, when I said I wanted to find one thing from each thing we do today, the one thing I want you to find today is go through and sing each phrase with fermatas on weak beats and weak words.
Okay.
And watch that you don't become a singer who has incomplete resonance on offbeats. And one way to shore it up is to just throw a fermata on there and fill it in. And then when you do the rhythms in context, they'll somehow be a little more supple.
Sure.
Okay?
Sure.
All right. So the second piece, and we'll watch the clock. We might not get as much time. Is we have Quando me vo from La Boheme, right?
Yes.
Great. This is a great aria, originally written for the movie Moonstruck, right?
Of course.
I was obsessed with that movie when I was a kid.
Okay. Ready?
Yes, let's do it.
All right. La gente mi sostiene
Beautiful.
All go to this, ladies.
Oh my, here's an ad. So good. All right.
Yes. Awesome. That's for the outtakes disc that Nashville Opera will release later this year. Oh, beautiful. Great. You know, it's interesting. The qualities that I loved in the Court Vowel of your voice really are the same in this, which is you have this nice presence, and mind you, we're on Zoom TV. I'm not in the room with you, but this is how it sounds. The low and the lower middle has a nice core and presence without sort of being knees deep in chest voice, not chest registration, belting. You don't have to do any of that. Work up a healthy relationship of knowing the diff between chest anatomy and chest voice. Those are two different things.
Yes. Yeah.
But you do a really good job with that. It makes high G and high G sharp and G an interesting choice for you. Because you have a nice lean physically in your lower middle, that can sometimes affect sort of the weight on G and G sharp, which I think after G and G sharp probably takes care of itself in its own natural way. So and I think the undoing of that lower lean, not completely, but just thinning out of it just a little bit, has to happen for me down around C and C sharp for you. And
okay.
Because that's sort of a first break. I mean, we're opera singers, so I'm supposed to say like primo passaggio or something, right? Like to sound official. It's like when it's like those moments when Giada De Laurentiis on her cooking show says one word in an accent. It always it's official. It's she's like, today I'm going to add the mozzarella, right? You know what but let's just say C and C. Let's say C and C sharp. So instead of sounding fancy, we're practical, because those are the dots on the page you're looking at all the time. Let's I think the way you started it was pretty good. I don't know if one can sing Quando men vo without any inflection, right? But I think they should practice it without it. So we're talking about the difference between how the sidewalk is paved and then how you dance on it. And there's got to pieces like this in this repertoire deserve a practice session that's really clean and accurate, and all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted. So do you mind just singing the very famous first phrase with a break in between each pitch? So we get Quando men vo. Just that you're no scoops, nothing, just totally accurately on there. The scoops are great when you're in the dress standing on the table. But for now, just clean. Let's do it. Great. So then you've taken the time to develop the footprints so that you know where to step with inflection when the time comes. Inflecting a phrase stylistically will be much easier if the rails are already down. And so that your muscle memory isn't one of inflection. So I think we talked about this a little bit last week. I worry about trick exercises like singing on schwas or vague vowels, that you don't want that to be your muscle memory. You don't want to drive around with your bumper duct taped on. Because you can get back from Walmart to your house with that, but I don't know if you can go on a cross-country road trip, which is what we're doing.
Right.
And thanks for coming to Monday Analogy Hour. Okay. I would consider going through every phrase like this with a break in between each pitch to make sure you've laid down a clean-cut footprint.
Is it generally too swoopy right now?
Maybe a little bit, because I wonder if with an orchestra, if you'd be late. But in the end, that's an adult artist decision. And my advice is, I'm not giving the advice to not be scoopy. That's your artistic choice. I'm advising that you're putting the rails down and the muscle memory of it is clean.
Got it. Okay.
So that when we're scoopy, I've got the musculature to that my beach won't erode because of it.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
I wanted to thank you for saying la gente sosta y mira with stress on J. Great. It's hard to do musically because of the
Well,
little,
thank you.
yeah, because there's the little embellishment on the second syllable of gente. So a lot of people say la gente sosta y mira, but you managed to say la gente by making the embellishment lighter than the gen. Great. Fantastic. Good for you. I think in the middle sections, I want to look at the B at the second time in a second. So we're going to skip the first one. When you sing Edasa por allor labramos y a sotil, this is another place to sing with a little more in the vocal tract, integrity and good tension on the offbeats.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And in this time signature, what is an offbeat?
I mean, what do you mean?
No, it's for me. It's tricky to feel it's tricky to feel an off energy for me in 3 because 1 is obviously important, keeps the clock lined up. 2 is the filler that can't collapse, and 3 is the preparation for the next downbeat.
Yes.
I think for me, I would love if 2 could have a little bit more muscular quality.
Okay.
Edasa por valor labramos y a sotil. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely.
Can we do that and overdo number? I bet you it's just going to sound legato, but if anybody's watching, you can email a complaint to info@nashvilleopera.org. Just kidding. It's totally fine. We're exercising. We're supposed to exaggerate. That's what training is, right? Do number 2 a little bigger. I could have just said that, right? Let's do it. Wonderful. Great. Awesome. Thanks, Rebecca. So by doing that over and over, there's not going to be an acoustical collapse on offbeats. Whenever we have this ascending chromatic stuff, especially going into your passaggio, add one line of latitude lower on each increase. So you gli occhi traspira to help have a little vacuum under the larynx to keep it from getting too high too soon.
Sure. Okay.
Cool. I'm going to move on to, can we do E tu che sai? So
this is your 2-minute warning.
Perfect. Thank you. This moment is a great moment to show off the academic side of expressive doublings in Italian. Because you have several in a row. E tu che sai. A little shout out to one of my beloved mentors at Juilliard, Corradina Caporello, who I remember her saying several times that this phrase was one of the finer examples of how powerful phrasal doublings can be. And as a Sicilian American, I grew up with relatives who talked with their hands as much as they did with their voice, and that same sort of that sort of athletic stoppage in the sound is really expressive here. So could you overdo it once? E tu che sai. Let's do it. Fantastic. Now there's a layer of pecorino romano on top of your pasta. Fantastic. Great. I think that's just a specialty moment. Well, when you finish this phrase, sometimes we finish a phrase on a pitch. Really, Ferrante? That's how that works? So this phrase ends on a C sharp. It goes, sai. You take a breath. Your next phrase starts on the same pitch.
Right.
Watch that you're on the same muscular line of latitude as your cutoff, and that you haven't elevated just because it's next. Music is interesting because everything is next. Sometimes the physicality, sometimes the physical architecture is not. So then we get E tu che sai che memoria so that we stay in the same place.
Got it. Okay.
You know what I mean?
That makes sense.
And we say this all the time, keep it in the same place, blah, blah, blah. Remember, place, when we say that, doesn't always mean the end of the road. It can be at the source. So let's instead of putting it in the same placement, whatever that means to place something in an invisible spot, but to repeat the source. Let's do that real quick.
Got it. Okay.
Thank you. So if we had 3 hours,
that felt really good.
Yeah, great. I wish we had 3 hours, but let's just do that real quick before we move on to Chris. Let's do the final B.
Okay.
And just the very final one where we have. Do you mind doing the 4/16 notes on a short E vowel? So we get E, 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 E. Just that.
Okay.
Hello, thank you. So when it's the gesture, we have to sing all 4 of those notes cleanly, and not have notes numbers 2, 3, and 4 in that lick be in some vague position that is saying, "Oh, here comes a B."
Yeah.
And
Okay.
the way to practice this lick is to do exactly what you just did. To go,
Okay.
that they each get their appropriate ratio of head and chest musculature as you're going up, as opposed to just a broad stroke of.
Yeah.
Because when it's a vague broad stroke on the way up, you will retighten to make sure the B isn't vague.
Right.
And I think the B will be less vague if the 4 ascending pitches aren't. So build yourself an exercise that takes those 4 pitches apart individually in increasing and speeding it up. Then legato. You know what I mean?
Great. Yeah.
Awesome. Goodness, we could talk about Quando Me Vo for hours. It was a real pleasure to hear you.
Thank you.
And I wish you luck on the Lotte Lehman competition. And thank you for keeping this all alive, not just for yourselves, but for all of us that party with you. It's really great. Thank you. Fantastic. Yay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Christopher.
Hello there.
How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. Warmed up, ready to go. Let's see what happens.
Like the background's good. It's looking good.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just floating in this blue nebula over here.
That's my drag name. Here it is now, ladies and gentlemen.
I love it.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage, Blue Nebula. No, I did not plan this. I did not plan this, you guys. I just took out my Susanna score, and inside is the Nashville Opera newsletter from the spring of 2018 when we did Susanna at Nashville Opera. Isn't that something? Good. All right, so we're going to do "Hear Me, O Lord," yeah?
I think we were starting with the Abendlich Strahlt.
Okay, good. I didn't know.
Yeah. I'm easy either way.
Yeah,
Dealer's choice.
Yeah, let's do the Wagner because that might take a
Sure.
little more time.
Sure.
So real quick, we're at the very end of Das Rheingold, yeah?
That's right.
And what's just happened?
So this is the I don't want to say it's the conclusion, but it's the welcome to Valhalla. Wotan has just lost out. The giants, well, Fafnir has just killed Fasolt and taken the ring and the Tarnhelm. Fortunately, Freya has been saved from being traded off to the giants. But I think all of the gods are pretty resentful about Wotan's willingness to risk her, her safety. And he says, but hang on a second, look what I've done. And the Rainbow Bridge is unveiled. And he says, look, all of our anxiety and our troubles have disappeared. And here is our new home.
Fantastic. And goodness, we could have they do. You could have huge seminars about the Ring, right? And we all
Oh,
have
yeah.
we have our different opinions and feelings we get from it, which I think makes it so fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, you said something that triggered me in a good way. You said, well, I don't want to say this is the end but for me, when I see the Ring, I almost think everything that happens is a beginning, even when people die. And something, well, we'll talk about it after you do this.
Sure.
It's, and would you agree that the Rheingold Wotan's a little bit different than the Valkyrie Wotan?
Oh, an absolute, yeah, polar opposites. But I mean, there's something exciting about hearing, you know, a bass like John Tomlinson, for example, who did the full cycle. And okay, this piece is going to be very different from his, you know, farewell to Brunhilde in the grand conclusion of Valkyrie. But hearing a heavy voice, you know, deliver that piece, I think it just really reinforces that how austere the situation is. He really is passionate about in his love for Brunhilde. This is not just it's not for show. It's very human, and I think that was the whole point of the Norse mythology generally, is that they humanized their gods. It wasn't that they were untouchable, perfect beings. They were very human in there, and I think this is a perfect example of that as well. Right. You know, I think a lot of people deliver it so, you know, in a very suave way, but I think the human emotion here is embarrassment. I think there's a whole lot of, you know, pride involved in this and ungodly features, perhaps.
Well, you said two words that I think when I like Wagner and I like the Ring, that happens, and that's passionate and human. These are people who are talking to each other, after all.
That's right.
All right.
Yeah.
Now that you've all attended our TED Talk today on, let's hear it.
Yeah, let's see what happens.
I'm going to take happen. You're going to sing. That's what's going to happen.
That's it. I'm going to take my earpiece out, just so you know. So I'll put it back in after I've.
Right.
Yeah.
If there's an Amber Alert, I'll wave at you. Okay.
Abendlich strahlt der Sonne Auge in prächtiger Glut, brandglänzend die Burg. In des Morgens Schein mutig erschimmernd lag sie herrenlos, hilferlockend vor mir. Von Morgen bis Abend in mir und Angst, nicht wann ich ward sie gewonnen. Es naht die Nacht, vor idem Neid biete sie Bergung nun. So riss ich die Burg, sicher vor Bang und Graun. Folge mir, Frau, in Walhall, wohne mit mir. Wagner,
Yay.
what a man.
Thank you for saying this. Very impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Really great. You told me a little bit, fill in the gaps with my memory, that your initial training was in theater, yeah?
That's right. Yeah, I did a degree in theatre performance and worked. Well, I ran a touring theatre company for a couple of years. And then later, it was through the theatre company that I kind of developed my interest in opera. It was Threepenny Opera, Bertolt Brecht and Kurt Weill, and from there, yeah, I went on to pursue operatic training.
Great. I love it. Let's go. I took a couple notes, so
Great.
let's just go through with what I came up with.
Sure.
Keeping in mind for all of you and those of you who are watching, in a normal situation, in a dream situation with a professional singer, we'd lock ourselves in a room for 2 hours in the dream situation. And there are definitely a couple pro singers I work with that's what we do. We have our coffee, turn the phones off, and we just do it. But let's do the Cliff's Notes version of this today. So, yes, we're singing with a track, but that said, how can we get a very complete, from bottom to top, where all of your resonators are in the pose, the muscular pose that you want for the attack on Abendlich, that poses itself early enough to be ready, but not too early, so that it happens completely but quickly, that we don't have to take a long time. It's not like we fire the lights in the penthouse, fire the lights in the basement, wait 20 minutes, do the lobby, that they all go boom, right? So that we get, Abendlich right away.
It's the hardest note in the whole piece.
Sure it is. Let's talk about why. The B flat is right in the middle of your first break, like the heartbeat of it, and there's nothing worse than a profound open vowel living right in your first break. Right?
Yeah, and not wanting to punch it either, because that's the tendency is to just go, oh!
Would that attack for you be easier if it were an E?
Maybe, yeah.
Sure. So let's talk for a second. When you say E, can you just sing an E vowel once for me on a B flat?
Sure.
E. That's it.
E.
Great. So when we say a vowel, we have a set of postures in the mouth cavity. We also have a set of postures in the pharyngeal space and in the chest. What if this Abend, when you say Abendlich, what if that could have the E postures of the chest and lower throat, but only be ah in the mouth? So can we go back and forth for a second? Can we go
Sure.
E, ah, E, ah? Change vowels in the mouth, but rhyme the chest.
Sure.
As if you had a mouth right here. E, ah, just that.
Okay.
E, up.
Great. Fantastic. I would practice the heck out of this thing being completely aggressive and in your face.
Yeah.
Just to get the accuracy of timing done and then go back.
Yeah.
Every sidewalk is wet cement for a while. And just be very deliberate. Can you sing the first phrase and not sound like the most gorgeous Wotan in the world? And just sing, but be on time. Be Abendlich strahlt der so. Right there.
Yeah.
Abendlich strahlt der Sonne Auge.
Sorry, I
Great.
missed the...
Yeah, you're fine. Show me
score
show me that same immediacy and accuracy of ah in the mouth, E in the chest, as quiet as you possibly can, and you can't be late. You're in a hotel room. You cannot wake the people up next door, but you have to be on time.
Okay, sure.
That's good.
Abendlich strahlt die Sonne Auge.
Nice. And when you did that as an experiment, there was the ratio of air in your chest and air out in the room was better in the chest.
Yeah.
So let's now
Lots
sing
of compression.
Absolutely. Now,
Yeah.
here's another exercise. And this is an exercise I like to do when we have these attacks that are in one of the breaks on an open vowel.
Uh-huh.
That is, it's just the worst. Ask any countess that sings. They say, "Oh, mi rende il mio tesoro." It's a nightmare. It's not particularly high, right? But show me that attack one more time. Now, as quiet as you possibly can on ah.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Oh, oh,
Just the B flat?
Yeah, just the whole phrase. Yeah,
Oh, there it is. And just singing it piano.
as
Is that
quiet
right?
as you possibly can.
Okay.
Yep, on the chest, not in the mouth.
oh, 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 abendlich strahlt die Sonne Auge.
Great. So now that's actually, believe it or not, to the listeners, we're hearing a lower dynamic, but we're hearing a greater sense of resistance, feeling a greater sense of resistance in the chest. And think of a good analogy is to think about the difference in resistance when we go, which is a big opening and a lot of air, and we go, right? That sometimes the increase in tension results in a smaller dynamic. Now, let's sing the forte. Here's the part that means something to me, is that resistance that you got when you sang quietly on the chest,
Yeah.
that it stays on the chest. It doesn't become out in the receivers just because it's loud,
Sure.
right? So let's just do the phrase, Abend, right there.
Abendlich strahlt die Sonne Auge.
And I'm swinging that rhythm, which I shouldn't. Sorry.
Don't worry. I mean, we'll let the conductors do that. She can holler at you for that. Great. When you say in prächtiger Glut, right?
Yep.
So we have 4 B flats and then a D flat on a G, L, and U vowel, which can be a nightmare. Doesn't have to be, but it can be. It's really important when we go in prächtiger Glut that the final syllable of prächtiger isn't halfway to the D flat just because it's coming.
Uh-huh.
I would actually have it be in a lower resistance so that we get the physics of a knee bend before a jump.
Okay.
So and that's asking you to do something active on an unstressed beat. And that's what I think great singers can do, is they can be physically complete and active even on weak beats. And it's quite unmusical. But the sport is to make sure the whole phrase is supported. So think about
Sure.
professional sport. I'm a baseball junkie. Like, if I thought that's what I was going to do when I grew up, until I was about 13 or 14 years old. And the free, natural thing, if you're running if you've hit a ball out into left field and it's gotten in between the outfielders, and you know it's going to be a double. The dream, the goal, the sport is to run to first and make a left and run to second. The dream for the body, the most fluid and natural thing, would be to run to first and keep running out into the outfield. That wouldn't slow me down. It wouldn't turn my rhythm of my step off. None of it. But the game is to make a left and on the same relative line of arc from first base to second base. So right there, it's not natural because it has a rule.
Right.
So yeah, we want to say singing is natural, right? But not necessarily. I'm repeating these notes in my first break and then have to go up. I've got to do something on purpose for it to happen really well. And we say this all the time, singing is like speech. Yeah, I don't order Starbucks on a high C ever. And I certainly I don't carry a score with my order composed and sing it where it's pre-planned in my head. Right? So natural, yes. But
Yeah.
right? So can we sing a little extra depth on that unstressed final syllable? So we get, and let's run with our theme today. Can we put a fermata on it, the final syllable of prächtiger? So we get
Sure.
in prächtiger. Find your depth, then go up to glut.
Okay.
And on the oo vowel, after an L, the tongue has to retract. It has to go home.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah. In prächtiger Glut.
Wow, thank you so much. Then it didn't have where, as a teacher, I'm supposed to say all of your vowels should be lined up and resonate the same, right? Now I'm going to put my singer hat on my bald head and tell you, we all know that our oo vowel has its own color compared to our ah. We do our very best to sell a homogenized set of vowels to the public and to the internet critics, right? We do our very best. Can you imagine if someone had told, Rosa Poncel, the great soprano you have to put to the side when you're discussing sopranos, right? She was very neurotic. If you had told her one day people are going to be able to listen to every one of your recordings 40 times in a row, I think this is a woman that would walk to the Met from her apartment in the 90s on the Upper West Side and said she would pray to get hit by a bus because she was just so nervous about the whole thing.
Wow.
So we understand we're being evaluated and tested, and gosh, if you're in school, you're being graded on a rubric in tenths of a point sometimes. In the end, I'm interested that the sameness in your vowels is not in what I see on the exit, but what I hear in the source.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So very good job doing that. Okay, moving on just a little bit. When you sing in des Morgenschein, when you sing in des Morgenschein mutig, when you sing Erschimmend lag sie herrenlos, right?
Yeah.
All of those repeated E flats at Erschimmend, watch that they're not all living on their own line of latitude. Really try to match those.
Okay.
When we say things like match, which we all say, oh, your vowels should match, right? Well, what does that mean? I mean, vowels, they're invisible. How do you know they're matching? Right?
Yeah, I guess.
And
yeah.
And then I definitely think that sometimes two different listeners hear two matching ahs differently than someone else does. Right? But here's one thing that the matching responsibility is not on your listener, it's on the doer. So what if the matching part had nothing to do with how you sound and nothing to do with the exit of your mouth, but that this posture, this antagonism between your belly and your chest, that's how I think about support. And that shows itself in different ways for different singers. Some people like to do a Heimlich maneuver support. Cool, I don't, but who am I to tell an adult they shouldn't? Some people like a really good expansion. Some people say it feels like both at the same time. The important part is that that antagonism happens consistently and on time and maintains itself while my mouth is doing German and French and Italian. So if we can do in des Morgenschein mutig, and then when we do Erschimmend lag sie herrenlos, all of those E flats, same chest posture, not sound, but posture.
Posture, okay.
Let's do it. If you don't mind.
Yeah.
In des Morgenschein mutig erschimmend lag sie herrenlos.
Thank you so much. Great. I would say...
This is your 2-minute warning.
Thank you so much.
I breathed in the wrong place. I normally breathe after mutig. Sorry.
We'll send... Do you take Venmo? We'll fine you via there. Nothing we do is against the law. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
You can sing a sour high A one day, and it might feel bad and embarrassing, but you still get to go home and do whatever you want. It's fine. Remember, this is what we do is quite difficult and hard. And when you walk into Target, most people around you can't. However, it's not dangerous.
Yeah.
Depending on the set. Speaking of the ring. Okay, that said, good job. My guess, take some time. Your A and E have a lot more tautness in the chest in a good way than your O and Ah.
Right.
So I would do a lot of exercises in the middle, perhaps on chromatics, comparing the two often, like e, ah, e. So basically, your e vowel is teaching your ah in that part of the
Sure.
range. I think it all becomes high pressure resonance up top, doesn't it?
Yeah. I've got no choices up the top.
Yeah, sure.
Less choices.
We probably said this flippantly last week, and so I'll say it again because those are always my favorite things to say. When people, it's well-meaning when they say, "Oh, Chris, just do nothing with your jaw. Let it hang." Blah, 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 blah. I just like I was down in the lowest part of my range on the word blah. I did not demonstrate it to you on an E on a high B flat. And I have news for you. You can't.
You're right. I can't sing an E on a high B flat.
No. And
no, I understood.
Yeah, and Baryshnikov couldn't be on point with relaxed legs. But he taught those legs to be able to take it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're doing. But please, singers, I mean, I've got a live mic right now. I'm going to take the opportunity to tell you, over relaxation can be the downfall for singers who are looking for resistance for more than 5 minutes. You know, because otherwise lactic acid's going to come in and say, body, you're not doing enough to handle this.
Yeah.
So of course you don't want to be tense. If anybody thinks that's what I'm saying, they're crazy, right? However, I would hope that you use your body, and to say be on your body and relax it is a confusing statement to me. But I can say don't relax your body, but have it be in the most fluid, active, clear posture at all times.
Yeah.
Because that's what can take singing this thing that you're working on. Cool. Looking ahead a little bit. So, please, if there's a, Wagner maniac watching this and I mess what I'm about to say up, I own it. But I'm pretty sure this is the first time we hear the sword theme in the opera. Right before you say "So grüß dich die Burg."
Yeah.
I'm almost certain, somebody correct me, I'm not going to take it personally, whatever, but I think that's a warning what isn't a warning in this show? But when you say sicher vor Bang und Grauen, where you say safe from fear and dread.
Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah, I agree. It's all foreshadowing, right?
Yeah, sure. And is it really sicher? And if it's not, you have a responsibility as Wotan to sing gorgeously, but somehow let us hear that it's not. You know what I mean? And I think you do a pretty good job with that. So this So grüß dich die Burg was really good. Yeah.
Great.
Good. And once you get above E flat, tell me if you disagree with this. I won't take it personally. Once you get above E flat, your vowel like O has a nice complete pull on the tensions more than it does maybe a fifth lower.
Definitely.
Definitely. And I think sing So grüß dich die Burg real quick for me. And when you're doing it, don't listen to how your high F is doing. Don't look around for response. I want you to feel. If you had a tape measure, and you could measure the length of your chest muscles, to quote Frederick last week, from nipple to nipple, if you could measure that, take a measurement of your chest muscles while you're singing Zul. Okay?
Sure. Okay. Sorry, it cut out on me.
No, don't worry. Here we are. So grüß.
Okay.
Yep.
So grüß ich die Burg.
Very good. Thank you. So now let's sing that O an octave lower once, and I want you to feel those high note tensions. You're a weirdo. You have better, more complete tensions up top than in the middle. Cool. I say that now, but I think about big voice singers I've worked with. They all say that.
Yeah. I think it really does come down to options. Like when I get to the top, it's like if you want to sing that note, it's going to have to be right. Otherwise, it's not going to come out.
Absolutely. And the answer in the low is to not drive.
Yeah.
And this is a fix that happens in the studio that I disagree with, where somebody maybe is sounding a little, maybe you're hearing a lot of air in someone's lower middle. So a teacher may say, no, you need to make it more sour, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's not how acoustics work. If you naturally have a bigger voice and I'm standing a foot from it, I might hear some things. So if you go and put your ear on your refrigerator right now, you will hear the fan.
Yeah.
Walk into another room, you don't.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
I think with big voice singers, sometimes you hear the fan if you're up close. I would love to teach a singer singing this repertoire and I'd be out in the theater and you're on stage.
Yeah.
But we have a duty to, as teachers, to understand what a voice of your size sounds like from a few feet away.
Yeah.
And you have the responsibility to speak intelligently to explain why that's happening and how driving might satisfy the 3-foot acoustic in the studio, but will actually do more harm for you over time. And
Agreed.
Folks, driving doesn't mean loud. You can drive a soft note and you can be chill on a loud note. I don't drive when I shout to my neighbor hello across the street, but it's probably the loudest thing I do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I'm not thinking of my intercostals and preparing and all of that. I'm just saying, hey, right? And it just happens to be clear and loud. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Good. So that's a good exercise, is to compare those tensions throughout. Loved this. Last thing on this piece, before we hear the last piece, when you sing Folge mir Frau, I mean, what a great moment.
Yeah.
Folge mir Frau. When you have this, you are singing for 4 beats.
Yeah.
And you're tying into beat 1 of the next measure. This happens a lot with this composer. I'll have the same chat with these two. When you say, in Valhall wohne mit mir.
Yeah.
I say the same thing I'm about to tell you when people sing the Wolfram. At the point of tie, meaning beat your 4th beat, but the world,
big one.
Yeah, but big one in the world, but you're still at the end of yours. Take the soft palette and let it widen just a little bit on big 1, so that you've recreated a resistance that isn't involuntarily collapsing on you because you're such a good musician, and we tend to do that on big beats.
Right.
So that if you could get Im Valhalla right before you go down.
Sure.
And be specific that it's not just somewhere in there, but on the beat. Because what's interesting is sometimes when the orchestra changes tonalities, if we time a gesture that we're doing behind a held note, it doesn't get noticed because it's masked by the movement in the band.
Yeah. Sure.
And then the conductor, whatever he or she is doing with their arm, you can use their instruction to the orchestra to play 1 as your own personal instruction to widen your soft palette. then you've got a roadmap and a plan that you don't have to tell anybody you're doing. You just do it. Okay? So let's do it. Im Valhall, right there.
Okay.
In Valhall.
Great.
Yeah, that feels good.
And,
Yeah.
that's fantastic. And then the final syllable of Valhall has the necessary attachment on what pitch? A B flat. On an A in the middle of your first break.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
Then you start building a vocabulary where you don't have, here's my vocal technique and I'm going to spray paint it onto this score. No, this score, that little black dot is a B flat. I know how my body works on B flat, and that's going to be my first choice.
Yeah.
I'm going to add art to it later, but that's going to be the foundation. That's the first E flat in this opera.
Yep.
That's where I start. And then
Yep.
that's how this opera starts, this low E flat. And then next thing you know, there's 83 hours of art. But what's your genesis point? All right, good. Let's, I think we have about, maybe 10 or 12 minutes. I'm really excited to hear this. We have Hear Me, O Lord from Susanna, yeah?
That's right. Yeah.
Great.
So I'll just jump into,
Nice segue.
let's see how this goes. Okay. I'm going to take this one out.
Yeah, go for it. Enjoy.
me, O Lord, I beseech thee. I have called upon thee all night in vain. Thou hast gone from me, and my spirit has wilted like a morning glory when the sun comes. Return, O Lord, and hearken to my plea for forgiveness. Receive my confession, O Lord, and hear the words of my repentance. It's a horrible thing I have done. Forgive the weakness of my flesh, O Lord, and condemn me not to the eternal fire for my sin against thee and the woman. She was untouched, O Lord, she was untouched before her young body was defiled by my hands, defiled by my loss. Forgive me, dear Lord, and grant her thy peace. Oh, forgive me, dear Lord, and return unto me. Thou hast gone far away beyond the sound of my calling. Return and grant my tortured soul the balm of thy forgiveness. What shall I do if thou desert me? Leave me not with this weight of sin oppressing me, and condemn me not to the fires of hell. Return, O Lord, I pray thee, O return, and let this cup, if it be thy will, pass from me.
For the sake of time.
Yeah. An okay piece, isn't it?
That's not bad.
Yeah, really well done. Goodness.
Thank you.
Bravo. I'm not just saying this because we're on this particular opera company's Zoom page. My performances of Little Bat in this opera rank as maybe top 3 theatrical experiences I've ever had with Nashville Opera. To do the piece in Tennessee, you know, but it's such a, if you let yourself go there and take everything you do seriously, like you did with the language. Thank you for not doing a caricature of the language. It's great. It's quite deep. Yeah, anybody that knows me knows I don't spend much time with other adults. For my own way I do things, I don't talk theater and drama too much. I want to say, because I'm a voice teacher and I shouldn't. Honestly, I just remember when I was a singer studying, I had so many ideas that were mine. I didn't really want them messed with too much. But I just want to ask one question now that I'm going to do something I said I don't do.
Sure.
What I always find fascinating about this scene is, number one, he's like on a casual phone call with the Lord by himself. But this is about what happened to her. And really goes on about it. Talks about her a lot. You know, he never says her name. And in this piece, she is the woman. And it always makes me think, I just think he wants to live another day. Do you think this is the first time he's had a speech like this with the Lord?
No. I mean, he says in I'm a Lonely Man, Susanna, every now and then he needs a woman's touch and woman's love. So it's clearly, but in terms of the circumstances surrounding this one, I think this is I mean, I don't know. I think it's production to production.
Yeah.
Because was it sexual assault? Was it that he was just offended by the fact that it was her first time, that she wasn't who he thought she was, you know, that.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of
he
variability.
He says in this aria, the woman. In Lonely Man, Susanna, he says every now and then need a woman, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
never says her name,
No.
which happens to be the title of this piece. And I think in there is this story of his lack of compassion. Believe it or not, I think it's fake compassion, and I think that opens for me the honesty in Christianity with some people, you know, and it's something to think about with how you present this and whether or not you can allow yourself to exaggerate the vocalism a little bit, so that he puts in the revival scene, he puts on quite a show.
Oh yeah.
I always like to imagine that Blitch does the same thing when he's by himself in the room, because he's gotten himself into such a habit of making sure no one sees him. And as soon as they do, he has to move to a new town, except in this particular case where he gets shot.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Good talk. Thanks for coming.
But I feel like the fact that he goes to her defense, to the town, I think to me indicates some kind of remorse. I feel like she's not who he thought she was. I think he thought that in other towns he's found a loose woman that he could, satisfy that urge with and then move on. And this time he thought that's who she was because that's what the town had been saying about her. He's turned up and said, how about it? She says, I'm too tired to fight, which gives him the impression of consent. Right. And then he's come to the other side of it and realized, I've just done a terrible thing with someone who was not who I thought she was. And that's what spurs him to go to the river and say, she's not who you are saying she is, but can't justify it because how would he explain how he knows,
Absolutely. And
so,
that kind of questioning is going to make you a beautiful actor until the day you stop singing. Great. Awesome. All right. So now that we've had that moment, vocally,
yeah.
What do you find, if anything, what's challenging about this?
Return, O Lord, I pray thee, O return, the vowel on the E natural.
Great. That's a great thing to look at because we only have a few minutes.
Yeah.
So that vowel, what is it? Cool. That's not one of the five. That's not one of the five real vowels, right?
It is not. You're right.
We talked a little bit in the Votan how you can have a pronunciation of a vowel in the mouth and have the source be one of the five clear ones.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I like to personally treat exception vowels that happen in French, English, German, right? That don't necessarily really happen in Italian, where most of the vowels, almost always, that you're saying in the mouth, unless you're doing a Neapolitan song, are the same in the chest. And what happens when we sing exception vowels like and return in English is that the mouth changes, and unfortunately we make the chest change as well. And I always think the chest and pharyngeal posture should always be E, A, A, or U. One of the five real ones, and you've chosen the one that works best for you on any given pitch, and then change the mouth to return. So what's E flat, you have, if I said to you here, we're on a game show, pick one of the five vowels, E, A, A, or U for E flat. Which one is it?
It's probably a dark R. Okay. Because I sing a number of dark R's throughout this, and I find that they just kind of get into this nice back place that,
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Good. And I encourage you, when we say the word back in the vocal process, to remember we've defined that based on where it is on the mirror, but in truth, it's the front of the voice. You know what I mean? It is first, what we call back is the voice's source, its home base. So its integrity is everything. So really quick, with no inflection, can we do ah 4 times on B flat to E flat? So we go, B to E. 4 times.
Sure.
And instead of listening... Great. Feel what your chest feels like right now after singing those. Not what your teeth feel like, not what your ears feel like. That posture is what you want to stay the same when the mouth changes to return. So can we go... return, return. This is the same all the time.
Right. Okay.
Not the exit, but the source.
Sure. Yeah.
Sure.
Because I can feel it in the back. It's really my back's just
Yep. Great.
Return! Return!
Now you're talking.
Yeah. Yeah, I can feel it.
Here's one of the you have such a great intimate relationship with text and theater and language. And one of the things that starts happening is, for me, text and the meaning of text has so many words have different relationships to each other, and they can be anything. Nothing's against the law. You can say it means this, I can say it's not. To put that idea on top of an idea that the body shouldn't do that, that's what we have to like operate in two realities at the same time. That I have rhyming integrity in my body posture, while the exit inflections, aka different vowels and languages, that can change without changing the source. And anybody could say, "Oh, well, keep this the same." That's too vague. You have to develop what the stem vowel is. While the mouth is the flower, the turn, that's the flower, but that stem has to be an ah or an e, but that you've decided.
Yeah.
You know, and do that over and over and over. That was really great for me when you matched those postures. And really start, if all of you leave here with a couple things, let one of those be that stop saying that this is low and back and call it first. Call it the source. And we only call it low and back because we think this is the front, because that's the first thing I see in other people and in the mirror. But it's the last part of the vocal tract. Do you know what I mean?
Your 2-minute warning.
Great. I think this is a great choice for you. Thank you for not overdoing the language. I really, really look forward to the day to hear you in a room, not on Zoom.
Wouldn't that be lovely?
Yes. Well, it's going to happen, folks.
Soon.
You know, like, just keep in mind we're a 26-minute sitcom culture, but we're gonna watch a long movie right now, and we'll get there, and we don't get to take the cake out after it's been in the oven for 20 minutes, even though you're hungry. We have a long future ahead of us, all of you, and thank you for your patience during this. You will always, 30 years from now, when you're doing a retrospect in Opera News, you're going to talk about where you were during this, and your story is going to be that you were working on this. That's it. That looks different for everyone, but it's a truth. If that's your truth, great. And thank you. And we care about it. Those of us who invested a little more time already in it than you have are appreciative that you're taking care of this kid. It's really, really important. You all sound fantastic. Thank you for playing, and thanks for choosing such great repertoire, all of you. And thank you to the Nashville Opera audience. And I'd like to throw this back to Hannah, and yeah, have a good one. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Jason, today for an excellent masterclass. I would again like to thank the Nashville Opera Guild for their generous support of the Helen Brown Memorial Masterclass series. Thank you all for joining us here today, and we hope to see you all soon.